back right after this short break. But of course, we are going to be having Osigwe Momoh, the lead counsel, Robson Legal. That'll be next after the short break. Just stay with us. So like I mentioned earlier, Osigwe Momoh is joining us for this very important conversation as it relates to the president's orders. Osigwe Momoh, many thanks. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
So this question is something that everybody's actually asking, really. I mean, it depends on how you look at it. The question is, can the president actually give an order asking the EFCC to vacate a court order if the EFCC was actually acting on a very legal court order?
Well, it's difficult to call it illegal because it was procured from the court, following the process as stipulated in the Act. However, some things are not about right or wrong. It's about how it feels. Justice must not just be done. It must be seen to be done. The entirety of this process is odious. There's some level of distastefulness that most people understand from this. And the reality is that every public servant in the executive arm of government, the federal branch, is acting on behest of the president. The president is the executive president. That is to say, every executive, and the EFCC is executive, of course, is acting on the behest of the president. So the president can come in and, look at this. But the problem with this also shows that this EFCC is not as autonomous as it seemed. It would now be very scary. We have experienced this in Nigeria before, where we had the EFCC that seemed to be dancing towards the dictates of the puppet master. We're seeing the puppet behind. We're wondering, are you going after the perceived enemies? I'm talking of the dark days of President Olusegun Obasanjo. We were old enough to understand how the House of Assemblies from one state, Anambra, Bayelsa, and co, seemed to be focused solely, almost solely, on the political enemies of the then sitting president. Those days seem to have, somehow whittled down with Yaradua, Goodluck Jonathan, and, to some extent with Buhari, to some extent, I would say. But now, many Nigerians are wondering, are we back here? Are we back here? Why is it now? We are 10 days to an election. And why would you do this? If you love Mr. President, if you love the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if you love the EFCC, that we ought to see as separate, as acting properly. Why would you think that this is the right time? Of course, Mr. President did the best thing by advising or directing the chairman of EFCC to take this matter out of court, remove this from the public glare. It is bad. There is no way you look at it. It will never appear right. I'm sure the FCC chairman, if he goes to the silence of his halls at home, he will realize that what he has done is terrible timing. No, you can never justify this because we see election is coming. All of a sudden, the accounts are suspicious. There's a hand of Esau we are seeing, but the voice seems to be that of Jacob.
The EFCC directly answers, or maybe it's directly connected to the presidency. There's nothing EFCC does that the presidency doesn't really approve.
Well, it ought not to some extent, yes.
So one would wonder, really, how did the EFCC take that particular move without the presidential knowledge, or maybe without a directive?
Yeah, and that's why it looks as if now Nigerians have complained, and then the president, it looks as though they are cowing. But in fairness, you don't expect, Mr. President, the Inspector General of Police is not going to look at every traffic order to say, direct the road. Of course, if they are with the police and the police traffic men, they are acting on the behest of the IGP. The same way the IGP's everything is doing, the Mr. President is not aware. We don't expect Mr. President to be aware of everything, but for something as sensitive and sacred as the casting of votes, the tinkering of the electoral process, Mr. President ought to know. He has to know. If you did this on a frolic of your own, it also shows how insensitive you are to the presidency. It goes back to Mr. President. Nobody's going to remember Olukayode and complain so much about him. All we say is Tinubu instructed you to do so. And I think, in my opinion, it looks like Mr. President has where, you ought to know. If my staff does something that's so terrible, nobody's going to go there and start blaming them. They'll come back to me. Why did you do that? So we are rightfully angst at Mr. President. The pain of Nigeria is justified. And of course, he did the right thing. They'll go back to the court. It's an ex parte order. It was not hard on his merit. It can never be hard on his merit because don't forget, this man has immunity. If he decides publicly to take all the money to put in his account, there is nothing EFCC can do. He has constitutional authority immunity. Nothing. He says, I gave this money out. Why will you go after this? Running after, let's use, I'll call it placebo effect. And, let me reduce my word. The reality of of the matter is that these things, we don't want anything to make Nigerians be afraid of voting in the next election. Nigerians will say, APC are going to scatter this process. No, we don't want that. So EFCC did something wrong, and I'm happy Mr. President has corrected it. And right now, people can calm down. The entire mood is calm. We believe that, okay, Mr. President is going to be fair in the next election, and that's how it appears to us. And I think most people are happy with this.
Osigwe Momoh, many thanks. We truly appreciate you. We're following up this discussion and this conversation, and I'm sure that in due course we would find time to expand on this.
Thank you so much.
Many thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Truly appreciate it.
Yeah.